What if I told you one of Hollywood's brightest stars didn't just fade away? She walked out? No scandal, no downfall, just a woman who refused to play the game. This is the story of Debra Winger, a 3-time Oscar nominee, a firebrand who lit up the screen and then vanished at the peak of her fame. By the end of this video, you'll uncover the shocking truth behind her disappearance and the hidden battle she fought against Hollywood itself. Stick around, because what really happened to Debra Winger isn't just tragic. It'll change how you see fame forever. Hollywood loves a comeback story, but what about the stars who never come back? In the 1980s, Debra Winger wasn't just famous, she was unstoppable. With roles in classics like Urban Cowboy and An Officer and a Gentleman, she became the era's defining actress. The camera loved her, critics adored her, and then she was gone. No meltdown, no tabloid drama, just silence. But here's the twist. Winger didn't lose her career. She gave it up. And the reason? A fight Hollywood never saw coming. Long. Before the fame, Winger's life was almost cut short. At 17, a freak accident left her temporarily blind and paralyzed. Doctors said she might never walk again. But Winger made a promise to herself. If I survive, I'm chasing my dreams. No matter what. Against all odds, she recovered and stormed into Hollywood with a vengeance. Her early years were a grind, bit parts, a cringe-worthy softcore film she'd later refused to discuss. But then came Urban Cowboy. Overnight, she was a star. The industry expected her to fall in line. Instead, Winger did the unthinkable. She demanded better. This wasn't just an actress, it was a reckoning. She turned down cliched roles, clashed with A-list co-stars, and called out sexism decades before the For Me Too. But Hollywood doesn't reward rebels. By the 1990s, the roles dried up, not because she lost her talent, but because she refused to beg for scraps. And then at 40, the age when leading men get richer and leading women get discarded, Winger made her move. She quit. No farewell tour, no tearful interviews, just a quiet exit, leaving behind a single message. You don't fire me, I fire you, so. What happened next? How did a woman who conquered Hollywood end up on a farm, far from the spotlight? And why does she look back with zero regrets? The answers are coming, but here's a hint. This isn't a tragedy, it's a revolution. Keep watching because the most shocking part of Debra Winger's story isn't why she left. It's why Hollywood still can't replace her. Imagine this. You're 17 years old. One minute you're working a summer job. The next, you wake up in a hospital bed, blind, half your body paralyzed. Doctors say you might never walk again. This wasn't just a bad day. This was the moment that created Debra Winger. Most stars are discovered in some glamorous way, waitressing in LA, performing on Broadway, not Winger. Her journey began in darkness, literally. It was 1972, and young Debra was working at a California amusement park when a freak accident changed everything. Reaching to catch a falling prop, she was thrown from a moving truck. The impact caused a severe brain hemorrhage. When she woke up, her world had vanished. No light, no movement on her right side, just a hospital ceiling and the crushing fear that this might be forever. But here's what doctors didn't count on. That same stubbornness that later drove Hollywood crazy, it saved her life. Through months of grueling rehab, Winger clung to one thought. If I get through this, I'm going after what I really want. No more playing it safe. No more pretending. The accident became her brutal wake-up call. Either live, an ordinary life, or fight for something extraordinary, and fight she did. Against medical odds, her vision returned. Her body slowly healed. But the girl who walked out of that hospital wasn't the same one who went in. She dropped out of college, burned her backup plans, and headed straight for Hollywood, not as a wide-eyed hopeful, but as someone who'd already stared down death. That fire, that intensity she brought to every role, it wasn't acting, it was survival. Winger's early days in Tinseltown were anything but glamorous. Her first film? A 1976 softcore exploitation flick called Slumber Party 57, a role so embarrassing, She'd later refuse to even name it on Inside the Actors Studio. But here's what most don't understand. For a 21-year-old with no connections, it wasn't a choice. It was hunger. The same hunger that made her take bit parts in forgettable comedies, Thank God It's Friday, and TV shows, Wonder Woman, where she played Diana's sister. Yet even then, you could see it, that electric something that set her apart. While other actresses played nice, Winger burned through scenes like a wildfire. Directors either loved her or hated her, but they never forgot her. And when Urban Cowboy came along in 1980, that raw energy finally got its perfect match. Originally, the female lead in Urban Cowboy was offered to Carrie star Sissy Spacek. When she passed, the studio tested every up-and-coming actress in town, including a then-unknown Michelle Pfeiffer. But then Winger walked in. She wasn't the obvious choice. She wasn't even the fifth choice. But when she read for director James Bridges, something clicked. Legend has it, Bridges threatened to quit unless the studio cast her. Why? Because Winger didn't just read lines, she lived them. In her hands, what could have been another pretty love interest became a full-blooded, complicated woman. The chemistry with John Travolta was so explosive, audiences assumed they were dating in real life. They weren't. And that famous mechanical bull scene? That wasn't acting. That was Winger's real determination. The same grit that got her walking again after her accident. Overnight, she became the actress every director wanted and every studio feared. Because now, Debra Winger had power, and she wasn't about to waste it playing by Hollywood's rules. There are actors, and then there are forces of nature. By 1983, Debra Winger wasn't just starring in movies. She was tearing through Hollywood like a hurricane, and the storm was only getting stronger. Fresh off Urban Cowboy's success, Winger could have played it safe. Instead, she made an officer and a gentleman, and ignited one of Hollywood's most explosive on-set feuds. Her co-star? Richard Gere. The tension? Palpable. Winger later said acting with Gere was like working with a brick wall. Crew members whispered about screaming matches, but here's what's fascinating. That hostility created magic on screen. Their love scenes crackled with real emotion, just not the kind the script called for. When the film became a smash and earned Winger her first Oscar nomination, it proved something radical. Nice Girls finished last. Then came Terms of Endearment, and the battle that would define her career. Shirley MacLaine, Hollywood royalty, versus Winger, the young rebel. The stories are legendary. MacLaine insisting on tea breaks exactly every 90 minutes. Winger deliberately ruining takes by cracking jokes. The breaking point? Winger reportedly farting during MacLaine's big monologue and declaring, "That's my mark." But beneath the childish antics was a serious clash. Old Hollywood's rigid rules versus a new generation's hunger for authenticity. And the punchline? Their toxic chemistry made the film a masterpiece. When MacLaine won the Oscar over Winger, her "I deserve this" speech felt like the final shot in their war. But in truth, Winger had already won something bigger, a reputation as the actress who wouldn't be tamed. The roles she walked away from, at her peak, Winger was offered everything. The sexy reporter in Superman, Margot Kidder's role. The female lead. In Thelma and Louise, eventually Susan Sarandon's, even Ghost, a role that made Demi Moore millions, she turned them all down. Why? If I'm not scared, it's not worth doing. But Hollywood didn't understand that philosophy. To executives, she wasn't principled. She was difficult. Rumors swirled. She was blacklisted. She was impossible. The truth? Winger simply refused to play the game. When producer Don Simpson said she wasn't fuckable enough to be a star, she didn't beg for roles. She laughed in his face. By 1993's Shadowlands, her third Oscar-nominated performance, something had changed. The industry was shifting toward blockbusters. Complex roles for women over 30 were vanishing. And Winger? She was tired. Tired of fighting for good parts. Tired of the sexism. Tired of pretending to care about red carpets. Then came the trip. To Ireland with her new husband, Arliss Howard. Standing in a rain-soaked field, she had an epiphany. I don't want to do this anymore. Not a breakdown, a breakthrough. At 40, with no scandals, no failures, Debra Winger quietly walked away from $10 million paychecks and never looked back. Winger's exit wasn't just a career move, it was a prophecy. Everything she fought against in the 80s, ageism, sexist roles, the pressure to stay likable, exploded into the Me Too movement decades later. Actresses today battle the same demons Winger faced. The difference? She didn't wait for Hollywood to change. She changed herself. But here's what no one expected. After 20 years away, Debra Winger came back. Silver-haired, no makeup, and with a message Hollywood still needs to hear. 20 years. That's how long Hollywood thought it was done with Debra Winger. But here's the thing about forces of nature. You can't predict when they'll return. The year was 2016. Netflix's The Eye. Ranch needed someone to play Sam Elliott's tough-as-nails ex-wife. Enter Winger, now in her 60s, her dark curls replaced by a striking silver bob, her famous smirk now framed by laugh lines. The industry barely recognized her until she opened her mouth. That voice, still dripping with the same wit and wisdom that made her a star, silenced any doubters. This wasn't a washed-up actress begging for work. This was a woman who'd lived a full life beyond Hollywood, and it showed in every scene. Critics raved about her performance, noting how she effortlessly outshone her younger co-stars. But Winger wasn't here for a nostalgia tour. She had something to prove. Great acting doesn't expire. While her peers chased youth with fillers and filters, Winger embraced time's march with startling honesty. Paparazzi shots showed her grocery shopping in New York. No makeup, thick-framed, glasses, comfortable clothes, no desperate attempts to cling to her urban cowboy looks. Just a person. In an industry obsessed with eternal youth, this was practically revolutionary. When asked about Hollywood's ageism in interviews, her response was classic Winger. I earned these wrinkles. Why would I erase them? That attitude, more than any role, became her most powerful statement. Her comeback wasn't about reclaiming fame. It was about finding meaning. In The Lovers, 2017, she played a bored wife having an affair, bringing heartbreaking nuance to what could have been a cliched role for Cajillionaire. 2020, she transformed into a grifting matriarch, proving she could still disappear into bizarre, challenging characters in force. Voice work in Ultra City Smiths showed her willingness to experiment where other legends wouldn't. The through line? Every part she chose now had to scare her, just like in her prime. The difference? At 68, what scared her wasn't stunts or sex scenes. It was emotional nakedness. Why her story isn't tragic, that's the twist most miss about Winger's journey. There's no bitterness here, no woe is me about Hollywood's cruelty. When asked if she regrets leaving, her answer is always some version of, I got out alive. Because here's the truth they don't tell you about fame. Walking away can be the ultimate power move. While countless actors cling to fading relevance, Winger built a rich life beyond the spotlight, raising sons, tending gardens, loving the same man for nearly 30 years. That quiet contentment? For someone who once thrived on drama, it might be her most radical transformation yet. Debra Winger's story isn't about what Hollywood took from her. It's about what she refused to give. Her dignity, her voice, her right to grow older without apology. When today's actresses fight for equal pay or better roles, they're walking paths Winger helped clear decades ago. And that silver-haired woman you see now? She's not a cautionary tale. She's living proof that some stars burn brightest when they stop caring who's watching. So the next time someone asks what happened to Debra Winger, tell them the truth. She didn't disappear. She set herself free. What surprised you most about Winger's story? Could you walk away from fame like she did? Sound off in the comments, and if you respect artists who play by their own rules, smash that like button and subscribe for more unfiltered Hollywood stories. Debra Winger's story doesn't end with a triumphant return or some grand finale. That's the whole point. Her power was never in the comeback. It was in the quiet revolution she started without even trying. While other stars from her era desperately cling to relevance through reality shows or nostalgia reboots, Winger did something truly radical. She built a life that didn't need Hollywood's approval. Think about that. In a town where your worth is measured by box office numbers and Instagram followers, she found value in things that don't trend on Twitter. A lasting marriage, raising good kids, the simple joy of watching a sunset without a publicist scheduling it. Here's something you won't find in most Hollywood memoirs. Young actresses still seek Winger out for advice. Not about acting, about survival. Anne Hathaway has credited her with showing how to navigate fame without losing yourself. Jennifer Lawrence's infamous "Why do I make less than my male co-stars?" essay could have been ripped from Winger's 1990s playbook. Even newer stars like Florence Pugh seem to channel that Winger energy, that glorious mix of raw talent and "I don't give a damn" attitude. The difference? Winger had no blueprint. She was writing the rules as she went. The most fascinating part of Winger's journey? How disappearing made her more iconic. Unlike stars who slowly fade through mediocre roles, she left at her peak and became legend. That's why her rare appearances now, whether in indie films or on a random late-night show, feel like events. There's no desperation, no sad attempt to recapture youth, just a sharp-minded woman who seems genuinely amused by how seriously everyone still takes this Hollywood game. When she showed up at the 2022 Academy Museum Gala in a simple black suit, her silver hair shining under the lights, she didn't look like a former star. She looked like someone who'd outgrown the whole circus. Here's what really keeps executives up at night. What if more actors followed Winger's example? What if talent stopped begging for scraps and started demanding respect? That's the true power of her story. Not that she left, but that she proved you can leave and still win. In an industry built on fear, of aging, of irrelevance, of saying the wrong thing, Winger lives without any of those fears, and that might be her most revolutionary act yet. So the next time you hear some star say they're retiring from acting, watch closely. Most come crawling back when the checks dry up, or the ego aches. But the rare ones who really mean it? They're the ones who understood what Debra Winger knew decades ago, that the best roles aren't written in scripts, but lived in the quiet moments Hollywood will never see. Who do you think carries Winger's torch today? Sound off below, and if you believe true success is walking away with your soul intact, hit like and subscribe for more stories about the rebels who changed Hollywood without permission.